Hi, in the previous episode I explained how to best set up an audio interface for work. This time we'll talk about MIDI and MIDI controllers. As you can clearly see in my studio setup, there are many different electronic devices connected to the computer, all of which serve exactly this particular purpose. In professional recording studios all over the world, computers have truly taken on the crucial role not only of multi-track audio recorders, but also of instruments, samplers, audio processors, and all kinds of other musical devices you can possibly imagine, and the primary and most effective way to control them is still MIDI. What exactly is it? MIDI, or Musical Instrument Digital Interface, is a comprehensive digital protocol for efficiently exchanging information between various musical devices. It covers not only essential note messages, but also allows for smooth and precise changes of various parameters and even recalling entire sets of settings and configurations. Introduced in 1983, this remarkable system is still very widely used today and remains the primary method for precisely controlling synthesizers, samplers, drum machines, digital mixers, and many other diverse musical devices. The primary use of MIDI is to effectively utilize messages generated in real time, for example, while playing a keyboard instrument, or those meticulously recorded in a computer program to precisely play musical parts on equipped electronic instruments. This occurs in so-called MIDI input systems, fully supporting MIDI technology. These can be sophisticated synthesizers, dedicated sound modules, but also versatile virtual instruments running seamlessly within a computer environment. Thanks to the widespread and extensive implementation of MIDI in most hardware instruments, digital audio workstation programs and hardware sequencers can be effectively used to control multiple instruments simultaneously and to synchronize the musical sequences they play. MIDI is also used to control digital consoles and audio processors both in the studio and in live concert settings. Most MIDI input and output ports typically use 5-pin DIN connectors, while in smaller, more compact devices, they are often replaced with 1/8-inch TRS connectors, to which MIDI cables are then connected via an appropriate adapter. Many modern MIDI devices that connect directly to a computer do not actually have dedicated MIDI connectors, and MIDI messages are instead transmitted via USB. The development of music creation software, see the definition of DAW, Digital Audio Workstation, has resulted in a market where there are now a great many, and probably even more, MIDI controllers, meaning devices that generate only MIDI messages. Then there are devices that actually generate sound, such as hardware synthesizers. If you want to use a MIDI connection, you need to make sure that your interface is equipped with MIDI ports. In front of me is the Machine MK3, a controller dedicated to software of the same name, which is both an audio interface and, importantly, a MIDI interface, because it has MIDI in and MIDI out ports. We connect instruments and keyboards to it using these 5-pin MIDI plugs, like this cable here, for example. In the case of the RME Babyface Pro interface, the MIDI port is implemented with a non-standard connector, to which we connect a so-called breakout cable, and here we have standard MIDI input and output clearly marked on the cables. Some hardware instruments also have MIDI implemented on TRS 1/8-inch connectors, the so-called mini jack, and in that case, such cables are included with them. Let me show you a close-up. You just need to make sure if you're buying them separately that it's the correct standard, because there are two, A or B. As you saw, basically all the devices in my studio are connected to the computer via USB cable. And MIDI communication, a crucial aspect of digital music, takes place in both directions through a single, convenient USB connection. However, if you happen to have more hardware devices, or if you specifically want to connect a keyboard, an instrument, or a synthesizer to your computer using the standard MIDI protocol, then you will definitely need to connect the output of such an instrument to the input of this particular type on the audio interface. So MIDI connects this specific cable to the input of the interface. So, for working with Cubase's onboard instruments, specifically the virtual ones, you'll definitely want to use either some kind of small MIDI keyboard via USB, a dedicated synthesizer via MIDI acting as a USB keyboard, or perhaps a larger, for example, a professional MIDI keyboard for comprehensive control and enhanced musical playability. Let's move on to the settings in the program. You'll find the MIDI settings in the Studio menu. Under the Studio Setup tab, in the Studio Setup window, you will need to carefully find the dedicated MIDI tab, and within it, the specific MIDI port setup section. Here, all of your MIDI devices that are currently connected to your computer should clearly appear, including both your audio interfaces and any controllers that are connected to the computer via standard USB cables. As you can see, in my case, there are quite a few of them. The first on the list was Ableton Push, a controller dedicated to operating Ableton. At the moment, it's working with Ableton running in the background, but you just need to switch it to user mode by pressing Shift User. And now, when I press a pad, you'll notice a bouncing meter appears in the bottom right corner of the interface. This clearly means that the MIDI signal is coming in through our input connection here. The very same principle applies to another controller that is dedicated to a different program, which, when switched into MIDI mode using the shift channel function, will then send regular MIDI messages, and this will also be clearly indicated here in the bottom right corner of the display. A MIDI keyboard controller. This might be the first thing you'll want to buy if you're thinking about making music on your computer. Why? Let me explain. A MIDI keyboard controller is essentially a device equipped with a musical keyboard, which is primarily used to generate electronic signals for controlling other musical devices via MIDI, USB, or Bluetooth connections. It's most commonly utilized to play virtual instruments or sound modules. Very often, MIDI keyboard controllers are also equipped with pads for triggering rhythms, buttons for controlling selected DAW functions, as well as knobs or sliders. As a rule, the term MIDI keyboard controller refers to devices that do not generate any sounds themselves. They only send MIDI messages. Why did I say that a MIDI keyboard controller might be one of the first things worth buying? That's because many MIDI keyboard controllers come with a rich software bundle, including basic versions of various DAW programs. Let's pause here for a moment. The choice of software can also be a criterion for choosing a keyboard or interface, because some devices come with a Cubase LE version, which sometimes can, for example, give you the option to purchase the full version at a slightly lower price. And so, for example, Cubase LE is bundled with Steinberg products, Yamaha, Audient interfaces, and a range of other products, sometimes Tascam, for example, recorders, so it's worth checking that. Let's try going to the settings for a moment. As you can see, MIDI inputs appear first on the list, so each controller is usually visible as an input. Let's take the Microlab keyboard as an example, but also as an output. Look here in the I/O section, meaning input-output. Input-output shows up for us, and this keyboard and Ableton Push and all the other controllers. Theoretically, it might seem that it's enough to select the MIDI input, since, for example, you only intend to play on the keyboard. Oh, here, for example, some melody is not visible. Sometimes this feedback is necessary, for example, to display some information on the controller so that the communication is two-way. This is especially important in the case of endless type controllers, where there is no beginning or end. You can turn the knob endlessly within the range. To make things even more complicated, some specific devices can sometimes really appear on the list, as 3 distinct individual inputs or as 3 separate outputs. A perfect example is the Complete Control keyboard, that large keyboard which I'll show you up close in a moment. Complete Control 1, External, and DAW. What is this for? The Complete Control keyboard appears 3 times on the MIDI ports list, and not without reason. First of all, it works as a regular MIDI keyboard, so you can simply play on it. Secondly, it also supports a host application for plugins compatible with the NKS standard. So with this keyboard, you can browse presets of those instruments and launch them, as well as change their various individual parameters in real time. And thirdly, you can effectively control the fundamental and basic parameters of the mixer itself, such as the overall volume, stereo panning, and also manage the transport section, specifically play, record, stop, and other essential functions like solo and mute themselves. I would just like to additionally add that in order to effectively control the mixer and transport functions within Cubase, you specifically need to select the Complete Control DAW input and output options in the Remote Devices section. So you would then proceed to Remote Devices and carefully add the Complete Control keyboard. After successfully adding it, you will need to select Complete Control DAW1 as the designated input and Complete Control DAW as the corresponding output. And as you can clearly see now, the various buttons on the keyboard conveniently control the functions that are precisely listed here. Another particularly interesting example could be the Microlab keyboards, which allow us to easily change presets within the Analog Lab application, where all the fully functional versions of the brand's instruments are actively running in the background. Keyboards from Arturia and Native Instruments additionally offer integration with software, allowing us to launch selected instruments, change presets, and also adjust predefined parameters. In the case of Arturia keyboards, the integration covers V-Collection series instruments launched within the Analog Lab application, while for Native Instruments keyboards, starting from the smallest M32 model, it includes all instruments compatible with the NKS standard, that is Native Control Standard. The full list can be found on the Native Instruments website. So, as you can clearly see, in the comprehensive list of MIDI input and output ports, we can readily find both various physical controllers that are directly connected to the computer via a reliable USB cable, as well as the dedicated physical ports of an audio interface, such as my personal RME Babyface Pro FS, along with virtual ports specifically designed for handling certain essential DAW program functions, but also entirely virtual MIDI ports that exist purely in software form. Free software likes this as it allows us, for example, to route MIDI signals from Cubase to another computer application if such a need arises. As you may have noticed, all MIDI ports are marked as visible by default. These are both MIDI in and out ports, patch, section, visible. What does this actually mean? It means that we can precisely designate any of these available ports as the primary input for effectively handling a given virtual instrument on a specific MIDI track, for example, this particular one. But we can also choose the all MIDI input option, and then the instrument will respond to messages coming from all controllers that we mark in the in all MIDI section, which is right here. Let's just take a look at the lower part of this window. If you are using any devices that rely on direct music drivers, check this option. If you are utilizing devices such as Bluetooth MIDI devices, then it is recommended to select the appropriate Windows RT option. If you experience any potential issues or difficulties, such as significant timing delays, for example, during performance or recording, of notes during recording, etc., you can try enabling the Use System Timestamp option for each of these types of devices. And that will probably be all for this episode. Of course, these are just the absolute basics. There are many more settings available. For example, you can set up 8 distinct macros on each track and then choose a controller that has at least 8 dedicated controls. Potentiometers or encoders, like the endless type, for example, the MIDI Fighter Twister. There's a separate episode about it on my website, which I highly recommend. It's a super creative controller with several different operating modes for the knobs, including push functionality and a variety of modes. I don't want to spend time on that now. Besides that, the Launchpad also shows how to use the Launchpad, for example, to trigger various, not MIDI messages, but for example, to process inserts in Cubase. You can also find this in the Mini Remote Setup tab. So that's something I'll probably cover in separate episodes. And the material about the Launchpad in Cubase is also available on my website, somewhere in the test section. I've programmed 3 custom modes for myself, for handling quick controls, for operating the mixer and transport, and for batch processing. Let's start with the mixer. The bottom row is for transport. Maybe let's start from the beginning then, so I'll rewind to the start. Start. I turn the first track to solo mode, then the second track to solo, and the third one as well. I can also mute them like this, take a look. It works really nicely and very efficiently, and of course, if I wanted to lower the volume of a particular audio track, I can easily do that using these dedicated buttons, which effectively act as faders. Notice that when I press them, there seem to be 4 volume levels. The pads light up brighter now, so this adjustment is quite